In the heart of Cleveland stands a dark, mysterious mansion that has terrified people for over a century. Known as Franklin Castle, this Victorian house hides secrets that many believe should have never been uncovered. It was built in the late 1800s by a wealthy German immigrant named Hannes Tiedemann. From the outside, the house looked impressive: tall towers, stone walls, and intricate designs. But inside, something felt wrong. Not long after the family moved in, tragedy began to strike. First, Tiedemann's young daughter died suddenly. Then, another child. Soon after, his mother also passed away while living in the house. One death after another, all within a short period of time. Locals began to whisper that the house was cursed. But the rumors didn't stop there. People claimed that Tiedemann wasn't just an unlucky man, they believed he was hiding something much darker inside the walls of the castle. Strange noises were reported, footsteps echoing through empty halls, doors opening on their own, and faint cries heard late at night. Servants who worked in the house didn't stay long. Many left in fear, refusing to speak about what they had seen. And then came the most disturbing whispers of all. Some believed that behind the walls of Franklin Castle, hidden rooms and secret passages were used for things no one dared to prove. Something evil had taken root inside that house. And it was only just beginning. Decades passed, but the fear surrounding Franklin Castle never faded. By the late 20th century, the house had already earned a reputation as the most haunted home in Ohio. Curious investigators, journalists, and thrill seekers began to step inside, many of them thinking the stories were exaggerated. They were wrong. Paranormal investigators who entered the house reported equipment malfunctioning without explanation. Cameras would shut off suddenly, batteries drained within minutes, and recordings captured strange, unexplainable sounds. Some claimed to hear whispers directly behind them, only to turn around and find no one there. Others spoke of a heavy feeling in certain rooms, like an unseen presence watching their every move. One of the most chilling encounters involved a group that tried to document the house overnight. Around 3 a.m., they reported hearing slow footsteps coming from the upper floor. Step by step by step, but when they went upstairs, the hallway was completely empty. Then, one of them noticed something that made their blood run cold. A door at the end of the corridor, slowly closing on its own. No wind, no sound, just silence and movement. Even skeptics who visited the castle admitted that something about the place felt deeply wrong. Not just creepy, but oppressive, like the house itself was holding onto something it refused to let go. To this day, visitors claim to see shadowy figures moving between rooms, hear voices calling out their names, and feel sudden drops in temperature without any explanation. Some believe the spirits of those who died there are still trapped. Others think something far darker has always been inside Franklin Castle. Not a ghost, but something that never left. As the tragedies inside the house continued, the rumors surrounding Hannes Tiedemann grew darker with each passing day. Neighbors began to notice strange behavior. Lights flickering at odd hours, shadows moving behind curtains, and sometimes, figures standing at the windows, only to vanish when someone looked twice. But what truly terrified the town were the whispers about what was happening inside the castle. Some former servants claimed there were hidden passageways behind the walls. Narrow corridors that led to secret rooms no guest was ever meant to see. They spoke of doors that were always locked, and screams that echoed through the night. Then came the most disturbing rumor of all. People believed that Tiedemann had committed horrific acts within the house. Some even claimed that members of his own household had mysteriously disappeared, never to be seen again. No proof was ever found, but the stories refused to die. As fear spread, fewer and fewer people were willing to go near the mansion. Even after Tiedemann's time, the house did not find peace. New residents who moved in reported unexplainable events almost immediately. Objects would move on their own. Cold spots filled entire rooms. And late at night, footsteps could be heard walking through empty halls, as if someone, or something, was still living there. One family claimed they saw a woman dressed in black silently watching them from the staircase. Another reported hearing a child crying, even though no children were in the house. Whatever happened inside Franklin Castle, it didn't end with its original owner. Over the years, many tried to explain the darkness surrounding Franklin Castle. Historians pointed to the tragic life of Hannes Tiedemann, the deaths in his family, the grief, the isolation. Some say the stories were exaggerated, twisted over time into something far more sinister than reality. But those who have stood inside the house often say the same thing: there is something you can't explain. Even in modern times, people who visit the castle report the same patterns: cold air that seems to follow you from room to room, the feeling of being watched, and an overwhelming urge to leave. Some visitors don't last more than a few minutes. Others claim they took something with them when they left. Not physically, but emotionally. Fear that lingers, dreams that don't feel like dreams, and the strange sense that the house hasn't quite let them go. Today, Franklin Castle still stands in Cleveland, surrounded by curiosity and fear. Some see it as just an old building filled with stories. Others believe it is something much more. A place where tragedy left a mark so deep that it never truly faded. And maybe, just maybe, some doors inside that house were never meant to be opened. Most people think the story ends when you leave the house. But with Franklin Castle, some say that's where it truly begins. Visitors who once stepped inside have shared stories years later, stories they didn't want to tell at first. Not because they forgot, but because they were afraid no one would believe them. Some claim that after visiting the castle, they began to notice small, unexplainable things. Footsteps in empty rooms. Doors slightly open when they were sure they had closed them. Shadows that didn't match the light. At first, it seemed like imagination. Until it didn't. One visitor said he woke up in the middle of the night, feeling like someone was standing at the foot of his bed. He couldn't move, couldn't speak, and then, it was gone. Another claimed they kept hearing a faint whisper, always the same tone, always just out of reach of understanding. Not loud enough to be clear, but too real to ignore. Skeptics will say it's just fear playing tricks on the mind. That once you hear a story like Franklin Castle, your brain fills in the rest. And maybe they're right, but those who experienced it don't agree. Because they all say the same thing: it didn't feel like imagination. So if you ever find yourself standing in front of Franklin Castle, just remember, some places don't just hold history. They hold something else. Something that doesn't want to be forgotten. And maybe, doesn't want you to leave either. Even after all the stories, investigations, and decades of rumors, Franklin Castle never truly left people's minds. In Cleveland, locals still talk about it, but not always openly. Some will tell you it's just an old house with a tragic past. Others will lower their voice, and say something very different. Over the years, the castle changed owners multiple times. Some tried to restore it. Some tried to live in it. Almost none stayed for long. One owner reportedly abandoned the property after experiencing constant disturbances, strange noises, objects moving, and an unbearable feeling of unease that grew stronger each night. Another claimed that certain rooms felt off-limits, as if stepping inside them would be a mistake. Even today, paranormal enthusiasts travel from all over the US just to stand outside the house, hoping to feel something. And many say they do. A sudden chill in the air. A shadow where there should be none. Or the feeling that someone is standing just behind them, watching. But here's what makes Franklin Castle different from other haunted houses: there is no clear answer. No confirmed truth. Just layers of tragedy, rumors, and experiences that refuse to be explained. Was it all grief and coincidence surrounding Hannes Tiedemann? Or did something happen inside those walls that was never meant to be known? To this day, no one can say for sure. But one thing is certain: Franklin Castle isn't just a story people tell. It's a place people still feel. And sometimes, that's far more terrifying. There are places in the world that carry history, and then there are places that feel like they're still living it. Franklin Castle is one of them. Behind its stone walls in Cleveland lies more than just a past filled with tragedy. The story of Hannes Tiedemann and his family may explain the sorrow, but it doesn't explain everything. Because no matter how many years pass, no matter how many people try to rationalize it, the stories never stop. New visitors, new experiences, the same fear. A house that should have been forgotten long ago, yet continues to pull people back. Like it's calling them. Some say it's just legend, Stories build over time, growing darker with each retelling. But others believe something far more unsettling, that the castle isn't just haunted by the past, it's holding onto it. Every whisper in the hallway, every shadow that moves when no one is there, every feeling that tells you to turn around and leave, what if those aren't random? What if they're echoes of something that never found peace? Or worse, what if it's not trying to rest at all? Because if there's one thing people agree on after experiencing Franklin Castle, it's this: the fear doesn't stay in the house. It stays with you, long after you've left, long after the doors close behind you, long after you convince yourself it was all in your head. There's always that feeling. That quiet, creeping thought in the back of your mind: what if it wasn't? And maybe, that's the real reason Franklin Castle is still remembered today. Not because of what people saw inside, but because of what they felt after they left.